The alternative to self-love is self-destruction. Because you won't take the risk of loving yourself properly, you will be compelled instead to destroy yourself. Because you see, in tying up love in knots and becoming incapable of it, you can't destroy this energy. When you won't love and you won't let it out, the thing comes out in the form of self-destruction. The alternative to self-love, in other words, is self-destruction.
The alternative to self-love is self-destruction. My whole life I have engaged in self-destructive, dysfunctional behaviors. And to some extent everyone does this, right? It's just the degree to which you do it, but everyone does it, and the details don't matter. If you engage in self-destructive, self-sabotaging behaviors, then you know what I'm talking about. What's interesting to me is, why do I do this? Every time I eat poorly, I don't honor the health of my body. Every time I don't take care of myself, every time I sabotage a dream or work against myself, this is all a form of personal dysfunctional behavior. There's nothing good and nothing bad in life, especially as shaman. There's nothing good, there's nothing bad. There is only that which gets you closer to your goals and that which gets you further away. And what I've noticed as I've looked at my life, I engage in a lot of things that get me further away from my goal. In 2014, this really accumulated in a lot of self-destructive behavior that at this point was actually affecting other people. And when I was in the crux of my darkness, pleading out to my partner, why do I do hurtful things? He said, like that, because you don't love yourself. Oh, it's such a novel and yet at the same time not novel concept. I engage in self-destructive behaviors because I don't love myself. Oh, duh. Here's the thing. Knowing that I engage in self-destructive behaviors because I don't love myself isn't enough to change it. If you're doing something incorrectly and someone wiser comes along and is like, oh, you know what, you're kind of veering to the left here, you gotta turn the wheel a little straighter, you're like, oh, got it. But simply knowing that you aren't loving yourself and that's the problem doesn't fix anything, and so now I wanna know, how do I learn to love myself? And this is the path I have been on for almost 5 years now. How do you learn to love yourself? Is it just daily affirmations? Do you need to go to a therapist? Is it as simple as just letting other people love you and all of your imperfections and flaws? And what really gets me is I can't figure out where it comes from. Was I born not loving myself? Is that the whole fallen world thing in the Christian religion? Have I done something? You know, I was very privileged. So I was raised in a fairly loving family. I had a lot of privilege and no amount of external abuse that would be noteworthy. So I can't figure out where my lack of loving myself comes from. So there are these things that I can do to feel good, but feel good does not equal loving myself. And so then I started to ask, what is the root of my unloving myself? Because as we begin to uncover these problems, you have to go upstream to get to the real metaphysical issue. And I felt like if I can find out why I don't love myself, I can turn everything around. And then one day it dawned on me that I have a fundamental belief that there's something wrong with me. But I can't tell you where it came from. No one really outwardly told me that. Maybe there were some authority figures who wanted to know what the heck is with that weird girl. But for the most part, no one really told me that. And then finally I realized that society was telling me that. So when you have a child that doesn't fit into the status quo, I learned that through dissonance. I realized that I didn't love myself or that something was wrong with me. I deduced it because I didn't fit in. Why don't I fit in? I deduced because there must be something wrong with me. And so this is what I started looking at. If you go back to my report cards, okay, all through elementary school, they all said in the comment section, Jessica needs to learn to control her talking. And can you imagine if I had given up talking? Joke's on them because I became a professional talker. Now that's not to say that I didn't have to learn how to be aware of my talking, that when it was appropriate, when I was dominating the space, when I was interrupting other kids trying to learn. But from that first grade report card, all I kept thinking is, there must be something wrong with me because all of my teachers tell me that I talk too much, and yet that's my favorite hobby. And that's the message that we are sending to little kids all the time. Instead of thinking perhaps this is their talent, perhaps this is their God-given calling, we tell them that there's something wrong with them. And I never really did learn to control my talking until like 30 years later. I learned the hard way. The other thing I noticed was, little things like I liked boys and girls, and I always liked more than one at a time. There must be something wrong with me. I was the one theatrical, loud, outgoing kid in a family of very quiet people. Obviously, there was something wrong with me. Little did I know if I had discovered theater people at 10 years old, I might not have felt like there was something wrong with me. But here I was, little Jessica Ray, talking loud, being theatrical, singing. I was always being told to shh. People would wince when I talked because my presence was so theatrical. There must be something wrong with me. And so this is how I started to look at the map of my life, these little subtle moments where my computer program began to glitch. And as these beliefs piled on throughout the years, I began to manifest experiences to myself, because of course that's how these lessons work, that reinforced that there was something wrong with me, because try as I might, I couldn't fit in. And so now my question is, how can we begin to, one, heal this for ourselves? Because this is a core fundamental belief for all of us. Because we're all putting on the presentation that we fit in, and a lot of times we're trained to hide our weirdness because we think our weirdness is something fundamentally wrong with us. And so I'm here with a message to tell us, the grown-ups, the adults, that we need to begin to create environments in which everyone's insides are reflected on the outside. And every time a blessed new weird child shows up reflecting a different kind of inside that we haven't seen before, we owe it to them to ask them to tell us what it is, show us your insides, and then create an environment that displays it and welcomes it. And so this is what adults, thank you. Instead of trying to change our kids, we need to change our environments. And we need to feel safe. And there has been this theme throughout, I would say, the last 4 of our shows where I have been preaching on this theme that we need to quit trying to change other people, and we need to learn to reflect on ourselves. And tonight, I'm just really here to send you the message that if you are engaging in any kind of dysfunctional, self-sabotaging behaviors that are getting you further from your goals, you have a fundamental belief that there is something wrong with you. And the smarter you are, the more disguised the situations that show up in your life will be. So right now, is that funny? People are like, so wait a minute, I'm not a victim? So I have no idea what the secret is to learning to love myself, but I do know that we are here tonight to uproot this lie, this fundamental lie that there's something wrong with us. And the biggest thing is we need to learn to love the imperfect. Because what is imperfect in us is perfect in God. What is imperfect in humans is perfect in nature. And when we can learn to love imperfection, which is an art, suddenly those dysfunctions begin to melt away. So right now I'm going to invite you into the portion of the show called Alchemy. Gary Lynn, baby, play me something lovely. I think I'm in love, y'all.